Brodes Media.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into another edition of Schmooze. Today we are joined by Kate Scott, play-by-play announcer, television. What's going on, Kate? Thanks so much for joining me today.
What's up, man? It's so great to chat with you, Hunter. I love the name of the show. Looking forward to having some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So we obviously have a lot to talk about in terms of the playoffs, but I want to start here. You just completed your first season. What are your emotions right now?
Woo! Exhausted, as I just told you before we started this podcast, but also exhilarated. I mean, it was such a fun season. I don't think as a first-year broadcaster for any team, I could have come into a more exciting situation, right? Team's great, MVP candidate, one of the best sports cities, if not the best sports city in the country, and one of the best in the world. Great weather. Like I heard from everybody, it was a really nice temperate winter, which I agree with. It only snowed a few times to my memory. But yeah, exhausted, exhilarated, so happy to be here and hoping that this is the first of many awesome years that we get to share together.
So we're obviously going to dissect, the strategic side of things and whatnot, but I'm curious, was there a moment that stood out to you this year from your eyes when it comes to actually calling the game?
You mean like a best moment? Or
Yeah, a moment that was like, yeah, that was the fact that I got to call that, or maybe it's going to be something that happens over the next week where it's a big playoff moment. But in terms of the regular season, has there been a moment to stand out to you?
I think one that a lot of people have pointed to for me, and I think because of that, I have kind of owned it now as well, was the end of the overtime win over the Memphis Grizzlies, right? No Joel Embiid, didn't have James Harden yet, and Tyrese Maxey had himself a night. And it was a really exciting end of the game, and I just kind of let go and went crazy and was like, the Sixers are going to win this game! I just let go. And a lot of broadcaster friends in the industry. I got a bunch of texts from other play-by-play in the NBA who said, Kate, that was really you. Like, that was the first time we really heard you just stop thinking and just react and be the play-by-play announcer we all know you can. We understand that you've been in your head. This is a huge job. You're new and everything. But, like, do more of that. Just be you. So I think that was really the first time that I felt most comfortable and just wasn't thinking about anything else but I was so in the moment because of such an exciting game and just called the game. And it got a lot of great feedback. I know a lot of people hated it too because my voice sounds different than pretty much every other voice that we have all heard for the entirety of our lives calling every sport. So I know it's still a big change. But yeah, that was a great moment for me and kind of just gave me confidence to finish off the rest of the season strong.
Well, you do a great job, and I can relate to the loudness. I'm loud. I'm always aggressive. So people are like, you gotta calm down. I don't need to calm down. You need to move your ears to.
We're excited. Why aren't you as excited as me? We just beat the Grizzlies without Joel Embiid.
I'm right there with you. I feel the same exact way. Okay, so we have some big time action coming up, right? I want to know your initial thoughts the moment you found out it's going to be the Raptors. What went through your head?
Of course, was kind of my first thought. Of course it's going to be the Raptors because the heart is what makes it good, right? Like that's one of my favorite movie quotes. Shout out League of Their Own and Jimmy Dugan. But you never, at least in my experience so far for all the teams I've cheered for in the past, you never get the perfect matchup. You never get the easy route. Anytime you want to win a championship, there's a lot of hardships that go on the journey to getting there, whether it's player injuries, knock on wood, hopefully we don't have to deal with any of those, or whether it's unfavorable matchups as people are calling this one. But I've always looked at it as you're going to have to beat teams that are not good matchups at some point during the postseason. So bring it on in the first round. Not surprised it's the Raptors because of course you go 4-0 against the Bulls. So you're not going to get to face them in the first round, right? I know we were all paying attention to that. But in reality, if you pull back, and obviously you don't want to look too far forward, but I think the Sixers are on the better side of the bracket, right? The Nets and Bucks are on the other side of the bracket. The Sixers have played well this season against the Heat. I'm not looking past the Raptors whatsoever because I think this is going to be a very difficult matchup. But pulling back the 360 view, I think even though Some folks are understandably a little bit concerned about facing Toronto in the first round. I think overall, this could shape up to be a really exciting postseason for the Sixers.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it's too much to kind of look what could be afterwards, because that's still a thought process. It doesn't mean you're overlooking your opponent. And it's interesting, if you played the Heat and then had to play the Raptors, or if you played the Raptors and then you had to play the Heat, I don't know. I just feel like the tone changes, because it's almost like people would feel more comfortable playing the Heat. And I don't know. I find it fascinating when you think of the path on which team you would play first. But anyway, I kind of like it compared to the alternative, and I guess it comes down to, for me, James Harden. And when you bring him in, you have this thought process of you're bringing in a Hall of Famer, you're bringing in this guy, but then you see the ups and the downs. Sometimes the scoring and the inefficiency is there, but then he finds a way to get 15 assists and get others involved. So when you look at James Harden for this stretch, what are you looking for to put this team in the best position possible?
Well, I think when you think about the best players in the series, obviously Joel Embiid is head and shoulders above everybody. I think the Raptors are acknowledging that as well. I think Pascal Siakam has looked really good, especially the last time we saw them, right, just a couple of weeks ago. And then James Harden. And so if you want to win a series and you've got two of the three best players, then it's James Harden's time to step up. I think what you said has been the thing that stood out to me recently. Obviously, he hasn't been scoring as much as he wants. And that's the thing I try to point out time and again on our broadcast, because I know fans are frustrated. But we are not nearly as frustrated as the player himself, because James wants to be doing more. But the fact that he has been getting not just double-digit assists, but like high up there, as you mentioned, 14, 15 assists a game, and getting his other teammates involved. If he can do that and score between 15 to 20 points. I mean, obviously, I'd love him to score 20 plus every game. But if he's around between 12 and 15 assists, if he's scoring over 15 points a game, not turning the ball over, but being enough of a threat, and just screwing with that crazy Raptors defense to get other guys open shots, then it's up to them to finish, right? And we've seen in the games when they've done that, they've been untouchable. They've blown other teams out of the water in the games where they've gotten open shots and they haven't been able to finish. But I mean, it's the postseason. So if you get those opportunities and you can't, just finish them, I guess that's the best word to say, then that's on you guys. So I'm really hoping that he's able to step up his offense a bit. I'm hopeful that he'll be able to do so because of these 6 days of rest. And a flashback to right when he arrives, right? First couple of games in Minnesota against the Timberwolves, he was sensational. And I think all of us were like, holy cats, this is amazing. This is exactly what we were hoping for. But I bring that up because he hadn't played in a while. So I wonder if maybe not everybody is a rest guy. Some guys are better if they just consistently play. But I wonder if James will be more rested and then look fresh like he did right when we got him after the trade deadline. And then obviously Joel Embiid needs to be Joel Embiid.
Of course, yeah, and I hate the narrative that he's washed. James Harden, that is, right? Like, he does struggle at times, and maybe it's related to the hamstring, beating a big on a pick, or, you get that switch and you think it's possible that he can drive right by. He doesn't look that same James Harden as maybe a few years ago, but I still find, like you saw when they went to L.A. against the Clippers, excellent game. Those are still in there. So if you get a handful of those, it comes down to, all right, well, there might be one uncomfortable game or so. Is someone else going to be able to step up in that one outing? Whether it's Tyrese Maxey or maybe it's Tobias Harris with some catch and shoot threes, which brings me to my next question. Who is the X factor for you outside of the two big ones that we've already discussed in Embiid and Harden? Who is that X factor?
Well, I'd love for it to be a lot of different guys, because it's always more fun when it's like that, right? Because then the other team struggles to figure things out when it's one guy each game. But I think it's one of the guys you mentioned. I think it's Tyrese Maxey. I mean, one of the things that I've been reading a lot of papers and blogs and stuff north of the border this week, preparing for Saturday. And a lot of them have said, look, one of the things that this switch everything defense has struggled with, because the guys are long, is smaller, quicker guards like Tyrese Maxey. And I think we saw that in a couple of the games that Joel didn't play earlier in the season, or at least the one where he didn't play. Like, Tyrese was able to take over and get past everybody. And we see that he does that against a lot of teams. But I think Tyrese is going to be a big X factor. And
are you nervous, real quickly, not to cut you off, are you nervous about the defensive side? Because I know we love him to death. He's awesome. How do you hate the smile? It's amazing. Sometimes, though, teams do take advantage of that size.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. So I think that's where it's going to come down to. He needs to be as productive as possible on the offensive end. He needs to do as much as he can defensively. He's obviously not a defensive stopper right now, but do enough to allow either the help defense to come and help him out, or allow other guys to step up more on the defensive end so that he can go show out on offense. Because we know, right, you get tired out if you're playing both ways. So that's one of the questions as well, which I'm sure you're going to address. Is Embiid guarding Siakam? Is Harris on? Like, how are they going to slow him down? They don't have Matisse when they go north of the border, so how's that going to work out as well? So I'm looking at Tyrese to contribute as much offensively as possible. I think we saw some better defensive moments from him the last couple of games of the season. Granted, it was against Indy and Detroit, so not a Raptors-esque team, but he was making steals. He was seeming to be a little bit smarter on defense, not getting caught up in screens. So yeah, I think that's a concern, but you just have to do your best with what you got.
I'm going to put you in Doc Rivers' shoes. You ready for this?
Uh-oh.
All right. You know there's going to have to be a difference when it comes to home games and away games.
Yeah.
Do you think the best idea from this point at least, obviously things can change once you start making your adjustments and going toe-to-toe with Nick Nurse, but is the thought right from the jump to stay with Danny Green no matter if it's a home game or an away game?
That's when I'm going to start game one. Just because I think continuity is really important. And I get that from the guys, because when I've talked to them, they've said one of the biggest things to establishing a rhythm is knowing who's going to be out there with you, right? Because each guy has his own tendencies, where they're going to be on the court, where they prefer to be, how they play offense, all the things that we know. So it sounds like it will be easier for the guys if they know this is the starting five as you roll things out. But it's also the postseason. And if something looks horribly bad in one game, you can't stick to it, or you could be down 3-0 before you know it. So I think I start with Danny in game one, even though it's here in Philly, see how things work out. Hopefully it goes well and you roll that out again, because I think the continuity is important in building the rhythm as the series goes on, but also be open to change. And again, I'm not Doc, but that's what I would do. Just coming from, again, I know I've said this a zillion times and people are probably tired of it, but covered the Golden State Warriors for 10 years and got to see all the tweaks and stuff they made that a lot of folks weren't expecting and a lot of fans were really pissed about. And then all of a sudden it results in an NBA championship. So I think you got to be willing to pivot, especially in the postseason.
Yeah, one point that I always bring up, because you always live in the moment. In 82 regular season games, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs. You'll have your bad losses to the Pacers. You'll have a great win on a back-to-back against Miami after you beat the Boston Celtics. So you just got to keep that in check. And, I know how it gets in the postseason, where it's so game-by-game heavy, the talking points, where if you go back to the dreadful quadruple doink that occurred a few years back, Game 3, the Sixers at the Wells Fargo Center blew out the Raptors so badly, where Embiid was doing airplanes and celebrating, and they still lost the series by Game 7, or in Game 7. So my point is, you could lose one game by 10 and then win the next game by 8 and then lose one game by 6 and win the next game by 15, and it's so different. Each game has its own personality. I just love to stress that, because I think it gets lost, because this happened in Game 1. How could they ever do it differently in Game 2? Well, are you new to NBA basketball? It happens all the time. I just like to stress that. That's all.
And I appreciate you stressing that, Hunter. And I think more so in NBA than any other postseason, because we hear the word momentum so much, right? And I've talked to so many NBA players who say, because of what you just said, it's strange that doesn't seem to exist in NBA postseason, that a team can blow you out by 25 in one game, and then the next game you can blow them out by 20. And you're like, wait a second. It feels different, right? In baseball postseason, if you lose this game, you feel things start to unravel. But it's different in the NBA. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Absolutely. All right, I got two more for you. All right, when you watch Joel Embiid, right? What stands out to you the most about his game? Each year, I go, there's no way he's going to get better, right? And then somehow, I'm looking at the over-under, and I'm not the biggest betting man in the world, but I get intrigued here and there. I see his over-under in Game 1 for assists at 3.5. And I'm thinking, knowing Nick Nurse, knowing what he likes to do, and he'll blitz him and send all this help and, all that, there's a good opportunity for that over to hit. So his passing for me is wow, how does he see it the way he sees it now, when I thought last year it was good and it already made a bigger jump this season? There's so many different ways you could answer this, but I'm just curious from your eyes, when you study him the way that you do, what stands out the most?
Well, I love that you brought that up, because I'm not going to get the stat exactly right, but I think the last couple of games that the Sixers lost to the Raptors, he only had 4 assists and 7 turnovers or something. So I think the assist to turnover ratio just for Joel Embiid is going to be something important as far as success for the Sixers in this postseason series. But when it comes to what stands out to me about him, obviously this is my first year seeing him up close. I've seen him on TV for all the years in the past, but I'm still trying to figure out the right way to say this, but the rhythm and the smoothness and the almost ballet-like movement of this 7 foot 2 inch, 280 pounder. I've been around a lot of big
If
bulls.
you think that's good, you should see me at LA Fitness. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, okay, I just haven't gotten an invite yet, so I look forward to that in the off season, Hunter. But the way that he moves his body and the smoothness and the almost dance like rhythm that he has, and again, I need to find better words than you think as an announcer I would have these, but when his trainer tweeted out earlier in the season the video of all the different shots that he was making and then spliced them with Michael and Kobe, right? And then you realize, okay, those guys are not, they're what, 6'5", 6'6", and this guy is 7'2" and has almost 100 pounds on them, and he's making the same moves, and he makes them look so easy. That's what stands out to me, because there's just a grace that you're not used to seeing, I think, with guys that big. So that's been the thing that really stands out to me, and I don't even know if it translates over the television, but I have really noticed that seeing him up close and personal. And feel free to disagree, or obviously you're big on the passing and stuff, but just the actual way he moves, I don't think I've ever seen another human his size do that before, and I don't know how often we'll see that again.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he grabs the rebound and he plays point center at this point where, I just go back to when he first got in the league, and that's why these things like passing, and I don't want to get too much into the Jokic. I know we're going to get boned anyway. We're going to get screwed. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. But, that was an area that Jokic blew him away by. It's like, oh, he's so much better facilitating, and now you watch him, and that's why I think I notice it, because it's like it's getting better. It's improving. That gap is now starting to get smaller and smaller, so that's why my eyes kind of get drawn to that attention.
I think him bringing the ball up, like I haven't seen any other 7'2" guys. Like I was used to seeing Draymond Green do that. He's not 7 feet tall.
Right.
I mean, it's closer, but there's just something. Joel is a giant tank, a giant dinosaur, a giant whatever you want to say, coming down the court, and he makes it look so easy, like he's a 6-foot point guard, like you said.
Yeah, the mid-range pull-up jumper off the bounce where it's just in rhythm, it doesn't make any sense. I can't comprehend it. So it's just amazing. And we'll end here. I mean, well, I got one fun question to go. I guess you're picking the Sixers in what? What are you thinking here?
Shocker. I am picking the Sixers. I would love to pick him in 4, but I think that would be a little overconfident. So I'm going to say Sixers in 6. I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a test, and they're going to have to earn it, because Nick Nurse will get the most out of all of his guys. But at the end of the day, in the NBA, the better talent wins majority of the time. And I'll take that here, because I think they have the better talent, as long as they produce and execute the way that we need them to. So to end it with a little bit of fun here, just overall, what have you enjoyed the most in the city of Philadelphia? What do you like to do in the, is there a certain spot you like to go to, or, what do you like to do?
Wherever my dog drags me to, and I'm very impressed that she's sitting right here and has not barked yet.
I just got the people I'm sure are like, Brodes, we get it. I don't think you understand. I have the craziest puppy in the world. So we have a 6-year-old Cavapoo, which is a King Charles Cavalier toy poodle. Greatest thing in the world. He is the greatest dog ever. So we're like, it's time for number 2. So my fiance and I rescued a puppy, and it is a Aussie Border Collie mix.
Oh, no.
When I tell you we came home to a ripped couch and stuffing everywhere 7 times, we're on our 3rd crate, which is almost like a jail cell. We love her to death, don't get me wrong, but wow.
Well, any puppy will do that to you. And the breed that you mentioned, yeah, there's a lot of energy in there. So my dog is now sitting up. She heard that we were talking about dogs. So really wherever she takes me to, we like to walk all over the city. And I love, people laugh at me when I say this, but after you live in San Francisco for 10 years like I did, and everything is uphill both ways, I love that Philly is flat, so I can walk everywhere. We can go to Washington Square and get to see the Liberty Bell and walk around all the touristy stuff. And then we can book it all the way over to Rittenhouse Square, through City Hall and Love Park, and all the way down Benjamin Franklin Parkway to the Art Museum. So we have walked everywhere, and I love that. The food has been amazing. The drink has been amazing. I love that everything feels like it's on sale in comparison to what it was in the Bay Area. Like, wait a second, I can get 1 beer for less than the price of an actual 6-pack at the store. This is amazing. I'll take 2. His beer's on me as well. But just the people like you, Hunter. And I know this sounds weird, maybe because I think from the Philly that I've met, everybody likes to have that tough exterior, right? And I know it took a lot for people to come around to me, and I know a lot of people are still coming around, and I completely understand that. But the passion that you have just for life, it's not just for sports, it's for everything. And you are so proud of every aspect of your city, whether it's the things I mentioned, whether it's the things that I have yet to explore. And I love that because that's always the type of person I've been, just super passionate about life, happy to be here, taking every day as a gift, right? The old cliche that we say, no better time than the present because it's the gift or whatever the hell that cliche goes. But I'm having a blast. I say hi to people every day, and people are a lot friendlier than this California girl expected. So I'm loving every aspect of it, and hoping to make it home for a very long time.
I love it. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining me on Schmoozed. And on Saturday night, we'll be seeing it actually happen, and I can't wait. So I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the call.
Thank you, sir. It was great to be on and schmooze with you. Cheers to you and all the Sixers fans. And hopefully we'll be saying, Tunis, play the song after the game on Saturday night because I'd love nothing more than a victory to start things off.